Welcome to Own the Season podcast. We will talk to industry insiders along with outdoor enthusiasts to help you own your season. Now let's join hosts Art and Michelle Helen with Brad Jones. Own the Season podcast is brought to you by The Hunter's Vault. Cool, protect, and age your harvest with great results. Full size, but yet portable. The Hunter's Vault. Find out more at thehuntersvault.com.
Hello and welcome to Own the Season podcast. I'm Michelle Helen, along with Art Helen and Brad Jones. Today we are talking about technology in hunting. Who wants to kick this off? I think Art's like raring to go.
Well, yeah. Technology, I think, is a very good thing for a lot of stuff. You know, the trail cameras, the cell cameras, you know, your drones, there's long-range shooting. There's a bunch of stuff we're going to touch on today, but the issue, I don't think, is really the technology. It's more, are you using the technology correctly? Is it still fair chase? Or are you not even hunting anymore? You know, that's like my argument when it comes to cell cameras. I've got a ton of them. Mm-hmm. I love them.
I know that. I don't even think you know where they all are. Well, maybe the cell cameras, because at least they're telling you that they're still out there.
Yes. And
it might be the other cameras.
You know what? I have two cameras that I've lost this year. I'm not quite sure where I put them. I will run into that. Yes, yeah. I will run into them at some point. They are not cell cameras. At least the cell cameras
are still like,
you're not using an app to pin them all?
I do use Spartan Forge to pin them all. Okay. However, that day I was in a big hurry and I'm like, you know what? Whoops. And I'm driving down the trails and I'm like, this is a good place to put a camera. And because I put my non-cellular cameras on video and I'm like, hey, this would be a great place to maybe get some Polts or something running through. And now I just don't quite remember where I put those cameras.
Like, technology's great when you use it.
Yes.
Okay, but what about cell cameras?
So, you know, the issue with cell cameras and why it's starting to get banned in a lot of different states is this is my opinion. I can't speak for the wildlife agencies that are banning them. Part of it's what I've heard, but it has made hunters, and this is going to piss people off, it has made hunters lazy. It has made it so just kind of like we talked about last week with the crossbows. And what it has done, they're not using it for what it's truly meant for. Like when I take out my cell cameras, I use them to scout, yes, to figure out where these deer are and other things. I document a lot of stuff with them. I know where these deer go in the spring, the fall, different. However, when you have them in certain areas that are close to houses, like our property is 20 to 25 minutes away. One of them's a little over a half hour away. So I'm using them to scout. Now I have to go sit. I can't just sit there with a bow at whatever, 300 yards or 400 yards and hope that it's there. Well, what's happening is these people are taking either, you know, a food plot behind their house, an apple tree, bait pile, whatever. And I was talking to a gentleman at a consumer show one day, and he says, man, I love these cell cameras. He says, I took the cell camera out. I've got it, you know, he says, we're legal to bait where I'm at. I'm out the back door. He said about 125 yards. I've mowed this path and cut this big path so I can see the bait pile from my house. And he said, so I don't even go back there. Come rifle season, I just sit in my house and watch TV and wait for the notification on my cell phone. When I get the notification on my cell phone, if it's a deer I want, then I'll get up and see if I have a chance at it. Otherwise, I'm like, okay, cool. I'm like, no, wait a minute here. I said, what hunting? You're not hunting anymore. Okay, you're watching TV, and granted, everybody's gonna say, "Oh, well, you've got this heated blind out there now that you're sitting in, and you're looking at your cell phone and blah blah." That might be true, but I have left the comfort of my own home, and I'm not sitting there waiting for this. That all of a sudden, oh, ding, 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 there it is. Now I can get up from what I'm doing, walk to my door, open my patio door, and shoot this thing from my patio. That is not what that technology is made for.
I think it's not what not what it was intended for, I would say. I think I'm trying to see how I want to say this. I don't think that that's any way that any of the three of us would choose to use that technology. But at the end of the day, I think it's up to, like, if it's legal, and when we've talked about agencies that are starting to ban them. I think a lot of times wildlife agencies, they're just managing numbers, herd numbers, animal numbers, and balancing that, and looking at that, and then issuing permits or tags. And they're looking at harvest numbers to try to, regulate the population of any given species. I honestly don't think they care how they're harvested at the end of the day. I think we know that because they don't really care if it's archery or bow or compound or at the end of the day, they just want numbers.
Yes.
And then we know that there's insurance companies lobbying and things like that. So I think then it's just a matter of, like, we wouldn't get satisfaction out of doing that, sitting in our home waiting for notification, and then walking out onto the back deck to take a shot. But if these other people are satisfied doing that, they find some kind of, I don't think they're finding like great joy in it, but if they're okay doing that, like, where's the harm?
Where do the ethics come in?
Right.
Then? Where does the fair chase come in?
It may not be fair chase, but
that's not fair
That's
chase.
a fine line.
Yeah, I don't know that it's. I'm not saying it's fair chase, but if the weapon is sighted in, and they make it, to me the ethics is in, like, the shot play, making a good shot so the animal doesn't suffer.
Yeah, and I think we'll have to disagree on this one,
I'm
because
just saying.
I don't.
I agree, it's not fair chase, but
and that's why we're losing this right. That is why the states, and I think you're 95% wrong on the states just care about numbers. The only state that gives a shit about numbers is Wisconsin.
Oh, that could be.
Wisconsin sucks when it comes to deer management. We are one of the worst when it comes to deer management. They give two shits about us. All they care about is their numbers, getting their numbers, and their money. And I don't care. I've argued with the DNR personnel, and I have friends that work for the DNR.
So you think the other agencies just want all the animals to be out there and live their own life, and then try to...
We're going to get to that, because that's a big thing right now. Look at what Iowa is doing. Look at what Missouri is doing. Look at Pennsylvania, all these other states that are now making antler restrictions. Michigan going to a $1 rule. All these other states, they're trying to grow big deer and do management. Wisconsin, we don't give a shit.
Well, I don't know that the agencies are in those, and I think what they have is probably a very strong voice of the hunters, and maybe some, like, Whitetails Unlimited groups or whatever, that have a very strong voice and are having some influence.
Oh, I agree with that too.
I think that's the difference. I think deep down the biologists know what's good for numbers and what the land can hold and carry. And I'm guessing that they just have the hunter's voice who want to shoot big bucks, are having some better influence than we have here. Obviously,
it's a big fight right now in Michigan. I mean, the hunters are. You've got it split, and they are not happy. Some are not happy, some are super happy, and it's ugly there. And
it makes sense, because you have people that go out to hunt for the meat, just to get together with friends, and then there's other hunters that are serious about age structure of deer.
Right. And so, Wisconsin, and that's the other thing, is just because they make a law doesn't mean because it's legal to do this, doesn't mean you have to do that. I mean, you have to be legal about it, but if they say you can shoot whatever you want and you can shoot 7 deer on these tags, if you are a landowner, you own the power. You have the power as the landowner to say, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to shoot 1 buck because I know how many deer I have on my property. So this year we're only shooting 1, or we're shooting 2, or we need to shoot 4 or 5 does. We can control it. And then, the DNR steps in and says, but you guys aren't biologists. Okay, I understand that. Yes, you are, for the most part, good at what you do, for the most part. But I also believe there are a shit total number of skewed numbers. They are skewing numbers, just like the CWD numbers and everything else. There is always something else involved. Okay, and you may not agree with me, and that's fine. I don't really care. Okay, this is my opinion. This is how I feel. And I think that they are also using some of their technology and skewing some of the numbers with their technology, because we aren't going to see it. I've seen some numbers and different stuff. And, a friend of mine, Dan Schmidt from Deer and Deer Hunting, he just released a whole bunch of numbers over the years of how many deer licenses are sold, how many deer were killed with bow, how many killed with gun, all this other stuff. And they really haven't changed a whole lot, which is really surprising over the years. But if you talk to different people within different industries, they're like, oh my God, everything is so off kilter, and these are different, and this is different. You got to look at the factual numbers, not ones. It's like everything else. Look at what the true numbers are. Do your digging, do your research, and don't say, well, you know what? Art told me this, or Brad told me that, or Michelle, or whoever, because you also have to do your research and get those numbers. And that's the thing with all this technology, is you have to sit there and look at it. So it's again, where is, and back to the original, where is the fair chase? And that is why they're losing it, is because the states are considering this no longer fair chase. And part of that is brought up due to the organizations, due to Pope and Young, Boone and Crockett, all these others saying this isn't fair chase anymore, which I have to tend to agree with.
So how do you, without banning entirely, how else could you regulate some of these things, right? Could you, like, instead of banning cell cams, is it like you cannot use one within so many yards of a primary residence? I mean, what do you do?
Right. And that's a valid question and a great question, because
without just letting either banning it entirely, which then harms folks that are, wanting to have cameras up, who maybe are outfitters, or other people who live, hundreds of miles, sometimes thousands of miles, away from the property. Right.
Right. And they don't only use them for hunting. They also use them, like I use them for people trespassing.
There's some security kind of
for
things.
Security stuff, or to get counts of how many turkeys do we have, how many bobcats do we have, or deer, or whatever.
I think in a lot of cases, like with the cellular cameras or whatever, trail cameras in general, self-regulate yourself. Do you think it's ethical?
Right.
I mean, it's probably the only way you can do it, because the people that are going to use them unethically are going to unethically hunt in other ways as well. I would assume to believe.
Right. Yeah. That's a pretty good likelihood, I guess.
Yeah, 100%. And
I mean, one could say, where's the fair chase in rifle hunting at all?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you define fair chase?
Right.
You know,
I mean, if you get into the like Pope and Young, Boone and Craig, whatever, I think some of their fair chase too is like if you're hunting them under snow, how deep is the snow? So there's a lot of things that come into play.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
there is.
You know,
And
you could really start to nitpick things away.
yeah, I
nitpick
mean,
at
you
things,
can
right?
go down a lot of rabbit holes here, and that's the thing.
Well, you've got
We're
long
not going
range
to get rid
shooting
of
on
the
your.
technology.
No.
We're not going to get rid of the technology. I mean, the technology is every minute there's something new, it seems like. These cameras, holy cow.
Yeah.
360, just coming to your phone almost instantly is.
And now they've got AI, so you can
Yeah.
set them to, is it a buck or a doe? I don't want pictures sent to me unless it's a buck. So it'll, it'll check it, and if it's a buck, it'll save the picture and send it to you. So yeah, it's so high in technology that I think we have to look at ourselves again and say, okay, is this right or is this wrong? Or we're going to ruin it for everybody because, again, Iowa is now looking at banning it. The other states out west. And a lot of reasons it was originally banned, especially on, and they're not banning them on private land. They're banning them on public land. And the reason is, and why it originally started, when you would go out west on an elk hunt or a mule deer hunt, and you would find a water hole back in the middle or a wallow back in the middle of nowhere, there would literally be 10, 15, 20 cameras surrounding that water hole. And what would happen would be either the hunter or the outfitter or whoever had those cameras there, they would get there and try to be the first one there to hunt. And then they would argue amongst each other of who had the timestamp the earliest and was watching that deer or elk or whatever the longest. And so it just started another big pissing match between hunters. And we already have enough of that going on.
Right.
So I think the state said, screw you.
Yeah, the trail camera, cell camera things can be such a good teaching device for you to hone or improve your woodmanship skills too, because, a lot of people these days that get into hunting don't have that mentor behind it. So this is a good way to see, how is this deer traveling? They can learn from that. But then again, like you're saying, you can use it for things that are kind of, not what we think are, ethically hunting them.
Right.
So.
And that's, we use them. And like I said, I've got a ton of them, but I document so much with them because I want to know, if they're deer that I'm not hunting, have they moved somewhere different on the farm? Where are they going to different food sources? Are they going to sanctuaries? Because I do a lot of land consulting work, a lot of land management work. And so that I use them more to study the behavior of these deer than I do anything else. And year after year, document, man, these deer were on this ridge at this time and blah, 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 right? The biggest downfall to me is when we're sitting in one stand a mile away. I've got to get used to not looking at cameras when I'm sitting there, and I'm like, man, because I flip a coin and say, you know what, I've seen the deer here, I've seen them over there. Where's it going to be tonight? And the wind's good for both stands. And you sit there, and then he shows up at the other stand. You're like, really? And usually it's during bow season, so I'm not going to be able to get up and go over there and try to put the sneak on this thing. And so you just wait for the next day. And that, to me, is what you just said. That's what they're for. They're used, to me, to get that information, to teach, to learn, to help understand all the animals, not just deer, but turkeys, it helps you pattern them and understand what they do in different weather and it's real time. So you can say, okay, it's raining now, so what are these deer doing? And like right now, my deer they've disappeared. It's that time of year. They're starting to slowly find different home ranges where they are. So the bucks that I had earlier have basically, they're disappearing. I'm finally starting to see bucks from last year roll in, very slowly. I'll see a picture here or a picture there, and back in the same areas. So I'm like, okay, they're the same deer. And that's what I'm using them for. It is to figure that out. And, like Michelle said, right now it's legal, but you really need to think about the fair chase and the ethics of it, that I'm going to go sit there and wait until it shows up, and you talk to other guys and they're like, oh man, this deer's been hanging out for whatever behind my house. And so I'm going to leave work early and I'm going to go sit in my living room and wait for him to pop on my camera again, then shoot him out the living room window.
That's crazy.
Right. And again, to me, love it or hate it, I think that's the lazy way to do it. But, and it's going to get stuff banned. And that's where we're at. So that's kind of where I'm at with the technology stuff. It's awesome. It's great. Do we need it? Absolutely. But be smart about it. Otherwise,
I think that's the thing. Not all of it we don't need. It's convenience.
Oh, yeah.
Most of it is convenience. There's a few things that are like safety, like a few things that are like probably safety that have come out. But most of it's convenience. People were hunting and harvesting animals long before any of this. So need is a stretch for just about any of it. Let's face it.
I'll give it to you on that. You're right. We don't need it. I think, and you still don't need it, but I think for people that are truly trying to do deer management and grow those bigger deer, I don't think it's a need. I think it's a necessity. You have to have it to do this, because you now know what deer are there. And so, and maybe that's not cell camera technology, but that's trail camera technology, is you need that so you can see what's out there and say, okay, year after year, this deer now is 4 years old. This deer's 5 years old. Now it's at that age that I want to hunt it. Where before, you just saw a set of big antlers coming through the woods and you killed it. And now you're like, that was my 3-year-old. Why'd I do that?
Right.
Which you can still do that. It's legal on your own property. If you want to kill it, that's fine. But for the guys truly doing this management, I don't think they're a need. I don't think they're a want. I think they're a necessity.
I think a necessity and need is the same thing. So
no,
nice try.
Necessity is more than need.
Oh, I would have ranked it the other way. You're funny. You're funny.
To do that. But
it sure makes it it makes it easier.
It makes it easier
Possible,
not to kill deer.
Yeah.
Sometimes it does, but to bow hunt them, they're still old, they're still smart, and they're still tough to kill. I don't care.
Yeah.
But it makes it easier to pass the younger bucks. It makes it easier to let them get another year older when you know what's there. And you're trying to do that. So again, necessity.
I don't have an issue with the technology of the cellular cam. I would like to see what the state DNRs, their research behind what it's doing to the numbers. I'd really like to see that before they,
right,
tell us why they're banning.
Yeah.
Iowa doesn't want, Iowa can't handle out-of-state hunters. What does it take? 6 years to draw there?
Yeah, I thought I was going to draw this year, and I didn't. And so, it's taking longer and longer now to get there.
And they can get some more money for the points.
Right. And so it's And I agree. I don't have a problem with the cell cameras if they're used correctly. And I'm running the stealth cams and the muddy cameras with the app, which I have it set so I instantly get those images, and they are AI images if I want. I don't use that part of the technology yet, just because I'm too dumb to figure out how to use it, and it's not very hard to use. It's just, I shouldn't say too dumb. I just haven't had the time to really look into it to set my cameras that way. Right.
Yeah.
That stuff has been great with the technology. Now you get like less false triggers. You can set zones on your cameras. You can do all this stuff, so you're truly only getting animals. And so I absolutely love that with the Stealth Muddy and their app system. Again, use it correctly, and it's a great learning tool and a great teaching tool, and great for managing your deer herd and your turkeys. I don't care, for all your animals. It's great for managing that. So
we're not going to stop it. We can just control it ourselves, I guess, is the best.
Right. And if we don't control it ourselves, then we're in the boat that all these other states are in right now that are getting them banned.
Well, I think you don't want to break out in a fist fight around a wallow if you want to, keep from getting banned.
Right.
Let's all be on our better behavior, and that goes a long ways too.
It's amazing what animals do to people. It really is. What antlers have done. I mean, people stealing them out of trucks because I saw that buck, a year ago on my farm a half mile away, and you had no right to shoot it, and it left your property. It was on mine, right? I mean, you hear that people are stealing deer out of cars, or people are having fist fights, and it's crazy, man. It's just a deer. I mean, yes, they're cool. Yep. Antlers are cool, but it's just a deer at the end of the day. They're the way that they produce and the way they breed. There's going to be more of them next year, so it is what it is. But so I think, that part of technology, just use your head, but
what's next on your list?
The next one we're rolling into that, because I love doing this, I don't hunt a lot of places where I can use this technology, but long range shooting, where does that draw the line too? As far as now, you look at it, and there's systems out there that you can go and link your weather apps, get your own little weather meter, take your weather meter, take your rangefinder, and take your scope and link everything together. Mm-hmm. And you can sit there and say, okay, the wind is doing this, blah, blah, blah. Hit a button on your phone or your app, or even on the certain rangefinders they have, depending on how much money you want to spend, and it's going to relay back to you exactly what adjustments you need to make on that scope, because you should have had it set up. If you have it set up properly, you go out, you zero at 100 yards, you have it chronographed, you have everything set for that. You upload that stuff into your ballistics charts and your geoballistics, and all of a sudden the next thing you know is it says, hey, you need to make 23 clicks up and 5 clicks left because of what the weather is, and you're good at 1,100 yards. It's
it's still the person that's still got to make that shot.
100%.
Most of us can't.
And so that's where I'm going with this technology. Is what happens is a lot of people still only shoot at that 100 or 200 yards. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then they say, this is what my app tells me. So now they go out there, here's this animal at 1,000 yards, and they're like, this is what it's telling me to do. So they adjust it to that. They've never done that at 1,000 yards. So they, the app is telling you this, but you still don't understand because you've never shot that far. So the next thing you're doing is you squeeze the trigger and you shoot it in the butt, or whatever, you graze it, you wound this animal.
Wound it. Right.
And so it's, again, using the technology correctly. And that is by practicing all the way out to what that distance is. And you also have to understand that technology, because if you look at the geoballistics charts, because again, I like to shoot distances, but if you look at the geoballistics, it gets to a point where you will see a red line on there. What that red line means is that is how many foot-pounds of kinetic energy. And when it hits that red line, that means you no longer have enough foot-pounds of kinetic energy to kill that animal that you're trying to kill. All right, so that's the other problem, is it may run it to 1,500 yards. All right? But if you look through everything and say, well, I'm only shooting, a 30-aught 6, and if I run this ballistics, it'll say that I can shoot 1,100 yards with it. However, at 825 yards, I'm out of foot-pounds of kinetic energy to humanely kill that animal. And then you shoot it, and you wound it, and you lose it. Yeah. All right? So just because it says you can doesn't mean you can. All right? You might not be able to shoot that far. You look at these guns and they say, hey, you know what? Right out of the box, or Brad, you just had a 6.5 PRC built?
Yeah.
And that's what, like a quarter MOA?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quarter MOA.
So, this thing is shooting a quarter MOA at 100 yards.
It's capable of doing that.
Okay.
But I still have to make that happen.
Right. But, yeah, and that's where I'm going with it. So the gun is built to shoot a quarter MOA at 100. So at 1,000, I'm not sure what that MOA is, and I don't think any of us do until you actually go out, you vice that, you shoot that, you do your thing, and then you know what that capable is. But it's very capable of that 1,000-yard shot. Are you capable of that 1,000-yard shot? Probably in a vice, probably, in something holding that gun, or in a bench, or certain prone positions, different things. Freehand?
No.
Probably not. There aren't many people out there that can do that freehand,
No.
Again,
even shooting sticks only get you out so far.
Right. And I've seen Michelle, and she's one of the few that I've seen where the technology, we were on a javelina hunt, and we were shooting at, I think, 300 or 350 the day before for practice. And she was shooting very well. But then we got out the next day, and the javelina, I think, was at 560 or 545 yards, some crazy thing. And it's like, all right, Michelle, you're up. We adjusted it, looked at everything, adjusted that scope, clicked it where everything was supposed to be, and she let it rip and dropped the thing in its tracks. It's a whole different... She was capable of that, but she was also laying in prone position. She also had shooting bags sitting there because we had time to get her set up. So that gun was capable, and so was she, but she had shot that 350 yards a lot consistently. So she understood that. There's, again, people shoot 50 yards, 100 yards.
That also wasn't 1,000 yards.
Right.
I think, how far are people shooting when they're actually hunting an animal? There's a difference between target shooting.
Yes.
A lot of people, including yourself, right? That's what you enjoy, doing some long range, plinking. It can get expensive. It's an expensive hobby to have, but not getting any cheaper anytime soon, I don't think. But where's the limit, and how far people are shooting at live animals. And, I just think of all of the safety concerns that come with that. Ricochet, how many different places are there where you have a backstop, where there's something that there's a backstop at those kinds of distances, like all of those things that are continue to be super important.
And there are a few, depending on where you're hunting, some of these guys out west, but again, are you shooting down the side of a mountain? Are you shooting across a mountain? Are you, a lot of times they're hunting white-tailed deer in river bottoms, so they're sitting way high looking down in the river bottom. We've got team members that, we've filmed them. We've had them on film that are, shooting deer at 600 to 700 yards. I filmed one of our team members with one of the new smokeless muzzleloaders shoot a deer at 437 yards with a muzzleloader.
That's a poke.
Yeah, I mean it's a long and he said I'm going to shoot this thing, and he knows the capabilities. He knows what this, and he made his adjustments, put it out there. He knew the kinetic energy was still good, and I mean he shot that thing. It was on the TV show a couple years ago, and the thing ran and watched it fall over dead. And to me, that's amazing.
Right. You said it right there, knowing your equipment.
Right.
Having all the confidence in your equipment, shooting it, consistently, not just going out and shooting 20, 30 rounds through it. I mean, multi-times to the range, and just, you know exactly what that gun's going to do. That's the whole key right there.
Yep. And again, back to that technology of understanding, because that geoballistics does that for you. It as you sit there and look at those numbers, it does those and tells you where you're out of that kinetic energy for what you're shooting. Because again, you're going to go out and you're going to chronograph it. You're going to put in what ammo you're shooting, everything, and it's going to give you all that. It'll give you the feet per second. It'll give you the muzzle, your muzzle velocity, your feet per second. It'll give you the kinetic energy all the way out, and watch it drop. And so once you hit that certain point, that's what you have to know. And so just like you said, Brad, you have to know that equipment. You have to know every gun you're shooting.
You have to not only know it, you have to have personally witnessed it because you're practicing.
Right.
I mean, that's the level of knowing.
Yeah.
It's not knowing what the package, what the website says or what the manufacturer tells you, but it's knowing because you personally have been practicing. And I think what that technology does, the rangefinders and the app and scope and all of that syncs up and whatever. I think what that does is it makes it tempting to try a shot that's beyond your personal capability and practice. Okay, I think that's what it does, is it makes it tempting, because you could say, well, I shoot at 500 yards quite a bit. I've done this a lot on the range, and I've done well on the targets. And then, an opportunity presents where something's out there at, 800 yards, 850, and you're like, well, the machine says, I got all this that says this, and all I have to do is do what it says. And I can do it, right? I think it makes it tempting to stretch, a little beyond what a person's capabilities really might be. And the same can be true. I mean, I think people can do the same thing with archery equipment, right?
Oh,
like
100%.
People, and maybe not that there's technology associated with that as much other than the typical rangefinder that we use. But, people practice shooting their bow at varying degrees. But, it might be a lot of 20-yard shots, 30-yard shots, 40-yard shots, a lot of arrows at those distances. And then you got a really big buck out there at 60 yards, 55
Yeah, I'm gonna take
yards.
that shot.
And I got a rangefinder that tells me exactly what the yardage is.
Yeah.
So, I'm not guessing on that. I know exactly how far it is. So I can probably do it,
Right. I agree. 100%.
So I think it just makes it tempting to take a shot that you maybe otherwise wouldn't.
Yeah. But back to Brad, if we did, and it makes it tempting for that guy or girl, like you said, that shoots 40 yards with their bow or shoots 100 or 200 yards with their gun. It's not tempting if you know your equipment and you're shooting that 1,000 yards with your gun and know that, okay, I know it's on. I know I'm capable of making the shot at 1,000. Yes, my ballistics chart says I can only shoot 800. So, yeah, then you say I can't shoot 1,000, but I can shoot 800 because you know that equipment and you've done it enough. And like you said, it's not just plinking is expensive, but getting to know your weapon is very expensive.
Yeah.
I just ordered shells the other day because out of a couple of my longer range rifles, my 300 and my 7mm and a couple of my other ones that I trust in shooting those distances, I shoot nothing but the higher end bullets because I've shot enough out of there and tested enough. They're the ones that group the best. They're the ones that are the best at long range, but they're also $160 to $180 a box for 20 shells.
What?
And yeah, so it's not cheap, and it's Brad and I witnessed this. I was shooting a 223 and that I have is a coyote gun, and my ARs are also 223s. So was just interchanging shells from my 223s from my ARs because they were shooting them fine, grouping well, doing for the distance that I was going to shoot my ARs for varmints, right, for coyotes and stuff. Well, then I took the 223 and I would shoot, and it would give me a group of 2 to 3 shells. I would shoot again, and I would have them 1.5 feet, 2 feet, 3 feet left high. It was crazy. And what wasn't it, Brad?
Yeah.
I mean,
I couldn't believe it.
And so we actually, and we were at Vortex shooting with a couple of their shooters and range guys that know their stuff and very good shooters. And they're like, something's got to be. And they checked that. We looked at that gun and we went over everything. And we switched out rings, switched out the scope. I mean, we did everything, and still the same thing. And so one of the guys says, you know what, we're going to put a different 223 shell through it. It's a heavier one. It shoots, it's a different brand, different this and that. We put that in there, and that thing zeroed, and it was money.
It was unbelievable.
Never seen it do that before on any gun, but big thing with just the ammo. Because what I shoot through the ARs, because they're fun. I mean, yes, I use them for certain things, but to go out and crack off 300, 400 rounds is nothing. You go out and have fun with those too. And when you're target practicing, well, I'm not going to spend, $60 a box when I'm shooting, 300, 400, 500 rounds. It just isn't going to happen. And that gun just happened that now I have to spend $50, $60 for a box of ammo to get it to do what I need it to do. Why you need to shoot and why you need to, keep going to the range. Brad and I are going to head down probably either later this week or the first part of next week. But if the weather permits, I'm thinking, later this week we're going to go down. We got a couple of new guns that haven't been shot yet that we need to put a few through.
Suppressor?
We got
Brand new suppressor by Griffin, I
Yep.
believe.
Yes, Brad's got the new PRC suppressor with Griffin, and so he's going to put the Griffin armament on there, and we're going to go down and see how that works with his new PRC. And I've got a 6 Creedmoor that I'm going to put a different suppressor on from Griffin and get that put on there, and then we're going to have a little fun with that too and see. I've got a couple different loads that I want to try through that and see how that.
Did you get some of the new Federal?
I do have some of the new Federal. Actually, I've got a lot of the new Federal. But the 6 Creed, not the 6.5 Creed, that is on its way. The new, it's, I just drew a complete blank on that since you said that. The new 6.5 Creedmoor Plus. Yeah. And I'm excited to get that in my hand. Played with it a little bit with a buddy, but I'd like to get that in my hand and do that out of my 6.5 long range or target rifle that I had built. So I'd like to try that and kind of mess with that. But the 6 Creed, I think, is going to be the one that I'm actually going to try to set up and have that for my varmint rifle, which brings us to the next thing in technology, which is thermals and night vision. All right. And there's a lot of people out there that really dislike thermals and night vision. And I'm still trying to wrap my head around that, why they don't like it.
They obviously don't have a coyote problem.
Right. And again, what is it really made for? It's made for the predator hunting. It's made for down south for your hogs, coyotes, bobcats, different things. Like here in the state of Wisconsin, they're great for coyote hunting at night. You can't hunt bobcats at night, so you get to watch them through that thermal quite a bit, but you don't get to shoot them. The reason people don't like them, this is my own personal opinion, that I've had people tell me they don't like them, is the same with drones. Is they say, well, these night vision drones, blah, 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 people are using them to poach. That's what they're doing. They're going in and finding, all this stuff they're finding out where the deer are bedded. They're finding out where this and that with these thermal drones. And then they're going in with their thermal and they're killing them. They're shooting them at night.
I think those people are going to do it no matter what, if they have night thermal or drone or whatever.
100%. And that's
your own ethics.
That's exactly what I was going to say. It's not going to, if they're not doing it with thermals, they're going to do it the old fashioned way. They're going to take a spotlight out there and they're going to get it done. Right. Like you said, it's back to ethics. It's back to, looking at it yourself. And so that one I support all these, but that one I support even a little harder, that I do like the thermal, the night vision, and the drone stuff for recovery. If we're using dogs out there for recovery, there's no reason we can't use, these thermal drones to find these. You need to do everything in your power if you make a bad shot on an animal to go out and recover that animal.
100%.
And so I have no issues with what they're making legal to do that and find that animal. Because most of us, even though we're trying to grow big deer and get big antlers, I still want to take that thing home and make sausage out of it or jerky or have some hamburger or whatever, because that's the main thing, is I'm out there to shoot that thing to go home and eat it, right?
Right.
And so I think using these to find that is huge. I got no issues with that whatsoever. And it's changed the game when it comes to coyote hunting, predator hunting. It's changed that game. And we really need to take advantage of that. And I think you'll probably see in the next few years, I'm hoping anyway, is some of these prices are going to get a little bit more reasonable. And I think that's why there's a lot of people that aren't in it. You know, I
think there's some little bit of jealousy.
Yeah.
Potentially. Like, you know, I can't afford, a thermal scope, you know. So I like to coyote, I like to coyote hunt, but I can't afford that thermal scope. So they shouldn't be able to have them anyways.
Right.
You know, I think there's a little bit of that because they are quite pricey.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. And I think, with over many things come down in price unless there's some kind of, part or, some substance that's, gets expensive in the manufacturing process, that, price goes up in a particular component or whatever. But in general, things are higher priced when they first come out. And then as there's more competition in the marketplace, prices start to come down.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to see that. The thermals, we've got a couple guys on our team that use them, love them, go out and coyote hunt. And I'll tell you what, they are 100 times more effective coyote hunting at night than I've ever thought about being during the day. They're even way more successful. I like to trap. I'm not the best trapper in the world when it comes to coyotes. I'm still learning that game.
We're on the struggle bus on the coyote trapping.
Coyotes is tough. We're getting there, starting to learn more. But these guys with their thermals, I mean, they are putting a dent in that population, which is absolutely awesome because, if we want our populations of, turkeys, deer, everything else, we need to be able to control those predators. And that is, I think, one of the best ways to do that is with the thermals. And so, again, I have no issues with thermals whatsoever because, as Brad said, you know what? If they're going to go out and do it illegally and they're going to poach, they're going to do it anyway.
Well, and I think that is definitely true, right? People will find a way. I also think we don't want to ban or restrict those technologies, the night vision and thermal, because someone might do something illegal with it. Because that's the same argument about gun control. Yeah. We all don't want more gun control. So that's like saying nobody should have these guns or guns with XYZ features because people might do bad things, illegal things, might break a law with them. Already existing laws, we already have laws, that against poaching or against different things. There's already laws in place for the, terrible things that people, criminals choose to do with guns, but they're going to do it anyways because they're criminals. That's what they do is they break the law. Right. So I think we don't want to go down and say, we shouldn't we should ban night vision and thermal because somebody might do something illegal with them. Right. When you've got the vast majority that are using them as intended and legally. Agreed.
And I'm all for gun control. Controlling your gun at 1,000 yards and making that shot happen. So, but and drones, as we were saying, everybody's now having, oh my God, they're flying over my land or they're flying over this. Well, yeah. It depends, again, where that comes in is if you've shot a deer, and I'm very fortunate because I know my neighbors and we've got great relationships with our neighbors. And if I thought that deer would have gone on their property or whatever, I'm calling them before we were flying a drone over, before I am stepping foot on their property. And I'm saying, hey, this happened tonight. This is exactly where it happened. This is exactly where it entered your land. If you would like to come with us, you are more than happy to. Otherwise, this is where we're going to be. Are you okay with this? Are you in there? Are we going to screw you up? What is, and
Right. Yeah.
get on that same page with them, and then you're fine. Where it pisses people off and where people get upset is when you shoot something, you get to that fence line and say, no big deal, we're just going to fly the drone over anyway and fly it over the neighbors and see if we can find it and then call the neighbor. That don't work that way. Because when you do that, now you're causing problems. There could be somebody out there camping. There could be somebody on their own property that hit a deer that night or is out doing something and sees that drone fly over or hears it fly over. Now they're not going to be happy about it. And now you've just, caused that fire to erupt, right? So again, we're right back to where all this stuff, it's the ethics, it's the being a good neighbor, being a good person, and doing the right thing. And then all of a sudden, all this stuff kind of goes away, doesn't it? Now all of a sudden your cell camera issues aren't such a big deal and your drones aren't such a big deal. And, all these other things, everybody starts hopefully getting along, except for a few. There's always going to be that one pain in the butt, right? And it seems like today there's, instead of one, there's two, right? But there's always going to be somebody. So it's kind of like 4th of July just got over. And man, I just crack up looking at social media and all the people pissing and moaning and bitching about, oh my God, such and such didn't have a permit to shoot off a firework or such and such. You know what? We're in America. This is land of the free because of the brave. And if you don't like it, then get the hell out. That's where I'm at with it. Really. I mean, you'd sit there for one night out of the year.
Maybe a few people stretch it out.
Yeah, well, and I understand there's PTSD and I feel bad for those people. They know it's the 4th of July. And again, here we go with neighbors again. If you are a neighbor that goes out, we used to have a big 4th of July party here. And what would we do? It would be in the paper, everything else. We would get a permit. We would let everyone know, hey, this is the night our party is. We're going to be lighting off fireworks. So if your dog or somebody has PTSD, either turn the radio up, take them away, something like that. And try to be thoughtful to those people and let them know that it's happening. But most people understand that it's 4th of July, it's Independence Day, it's going to happen. So either take your dog downstairs, and again, the guys and girls that fought for our country or that did something that they have PTSD, I'm sorry. I feel for you. I have my own issues with that at times.
And thank you for your service.
And thank you for your service. But most of them, I think, would be some of the first ones to support it, And so, again, quit your bitching and move
I
on.
always hated it because my hunting dogs would run around the house looking for the dog or the duck I
I know.
shot.
No bird.
That's what I would always say. Yeah. Why your dog is peeing? Why your dog's over peeing in the corner?
Hiding
That's
in the
awfully
shower,
cute
yeah.
because my dog's out looking for something dead. And that was the truth. The fireworks would go off here, and our hunting dogs would. They'd be like going nuts, and it's like no bird, just So. But so again, it's right back to even stuff like that, being courteous and kind and doing the right things. And so, kind of wrap this with the last thing that I got is that kind of Michelle had started earlier is with the states and their own management stuff. Because of technology, they're this and that. Well, you got your $1 rules. You've got your...
That's not technology based, though.
No, but some of them are starting to, because of what they're seeing due to technology, because of the numbers of deer that they're seeing and the research they're doing. And this is back to the biologists that are doing things correctly, in the states that are doing things correctly. Those biologists are looking at all the documentation that they're getting from hunters, from trail cameras, from all this other stuff that they're doing, and saying, you know what? Yes, our buck population is horrible. We've got way too many 1-year-olds, and we've got way too many does running around. So we need to have more tags for does, and we need to figure out how these bucks aren't getting shot to get them a little older so we have a better age structure and a healthier herd. And so that's what a lot of them are doing, is they're saying, hey, you can't do this. Like Missouri, what they're doing now is if you're a non-resident, it's $1 per year. You can't go down there twice and shoot $2. It's $1 per year. Plus, on top of that, they're looking at different antler restrictions. I'm not sure if that one's passed yet, but I know they're looking at different antler restrictions. And they're also making non-residents, I'm not sure if it's for residents, but I know the non-residents, if you are hunting public land, you have to pay and buy a special public land tag on top of your hunting license tag.
I believe that's just for non-residents.
Okay.
That's the way I read it.
So
yeah, it's crazy.
But again, is it the numbers? Is it the numbers that they're getting saying that non-residents are coming in and shooting way more deer? Are they shooting smaller bucks than the residents? Are they shooting more does than the residents? What is the drive behind that? There's some drive from the numbers that they're getting saying, you know what, we need to balance this back out. And that is where we get frustrated here in the state of Wisconsin, is because everybody says, well, yeah, it's the big buck capital. BS. Okay. It's because more people put deer in the books in Wisconsin than anywhere else. You want big deer. I mean, I've been fortunate to hunt all over the place. Iowa, Illinois, Ohio, North Dakota, Oklahoma. I can sit Kentucky. I can sit here and name off different places that you will consistently see bigger deer than you will in Wisconsin. Yes, there are pockets that have incredible deer, but for them to say that we're the big bucks no. Maybe the most entries, and I think that's because we have way more hunters than these other states do. When you've got 600,000 people going out there hunting, you take a percent of that and put those in the books, they're going to be higher than a percent when you go to the neighboring state that has 300,000, half the hunters out there. So it's going to skew the numbers again. And so
and beyond even that, it's just like people choose whether or not to enter their animal in a book, in a record book, getting it scored. Which is entirely another conversation, but it's not even like those numbers, the numbers, it's no intentional skewing of those numbers. It's just, it's voluntary,
right?
So then it's not, you can't really use that as any kind of data that's reliable when you have a voluntary participation.
And, like you said, it's a whole different conversation that we will have at a different time. More than likely with a gentleman from Pope and Young, because he brought up a lot of good things.
Yeah, I know.
That's
who I thought of too right away. So we'll save that for our discussion with him.
Yeah, because it opened my eyes to a lot of things for that. And because I've never put anything in. I have a lot of animals that would go Pope and Young, and I've never done it. And after my conversation with him, I've got to look at things a little bit different. And so that'll be a fun one coming up down the road. But,
I definitely want to be on that one.
Yeah. I mean, as far as state management rules, again, I think all this technology is a drive behind all that. So whether we love or hate that technology, that is what's driving it. And again, right back to where we keep going is I think it lays on our shoulders as the individual and how these states are going to do this because of our actions and what we do. I just, if we don't change our ways, they won't change their ways. Or if we don't change our ways, or if we change our ways, I think things could get better. For certain things, they might get worse. But
and I think you definitely have to get behind the right organization, whatever your belief is, because these lobbyists have a lot of pull in what happens.
Oh, huge. And the numbers we're losing for hunters. And again, I urge you to look up this stuff at Deer and Deer Hunting on their Facebook page. Again, Dan Schmidt just put that out here last week, all the numbers and the decline in numbers of hunters and where we think this will be in the future. And it's pretty grim, it's grim looking. I mean, it's not good. And we need to change that. And we're not going to change it if we keep doing things. And I don't say us. If people do things the wrong way, and technologies keep getting taken away that are meant for the better, it's just going to keep hurting us, because then you're going to keep losing hunters. People are going to walk away because the younger generation is all about technology. They're all about social media. They're all about learning this stuff and understanding, hey, this is cool to be able to do this. It's the trail cameras, all these different things. And if you take that away from them, us, as I get older, I'm like, I don't give a crap. Half the stuff is really cool. You
haven't figured out how to use it.
But I don't even know how to use it, right?
Or haven't taken
Where
the time.
These 10-year-olds are already using it and going, man, you're old because you don't know how to use this, right? So you take that away from them, you take away their hunting too, because they're like, I'm not going to do it then because it's not cool. Or I can't use the technology I want, so they're going to walk away. So we have to find those happy mediums to make all this work for all of us, or we're going to end up losing it. So, that's kind of,
I agree,
my 2 cents in the whole thing.
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, it's a lot like what Brad kind of just said right there is, join your conservation organizations, or talk with people in those groups, share your beliefs and your opinions so they can get heard, and you can be a voice at the table when discussions are happening around these technologies. And in the end, it really comes down to each individual hunter and outdoorsman to use the technology where it's legal, using it wisely and ethically, and just doing the right thing and own the season.
Follow Own the Season Podcast on Facebook and Instagram. Thanks for listening.
Check back weekly for new episodes.